Right, so how can we strengthen social cohesion?
How can we strengthen social cohesion? We can definitely do it by having activities that will involve other races to participate in it.
I feel like we can strengthen our social cohesion by knowing each other better. My neighborhood create a Telegram group, and obviously there's a lot of families inside, so we always update one another what's going on. Even if there's a funeral, we know who passed on. This Telegram group, right, is quite powerful for us to not even leave the house, but for us to even like strengthen our bonds together. We can use on like Saturday, Sundays. Like it's a time for us to actually strengthen our social cohesion. So we spend time with each other, get to know each other, even share foods, and then let the kids play together.
I think in a multicultural and multiracial society, we can be a bit insular in terms of like who we interact with and socialize with, because we, on a subconscious level, we view people who are different from us as the other. And I think that subconscious barrier is what prevents us from really like wanting to know who they are as people. We think that we're very different from them, but actually we aren't different at all. And I think the first step, I guess, in strengthening racial cohesion is to recalibrate where we are coming from when we socialize into the world. We need to be open to get to know people of all races without the barrier of race in our mind, because we have much more in common than we think, especially as Singaporeans.
How social cohesion I feel happens naturally is your interest in someone else's race and nothing to do with your own. You cannot like create cohesion if you have no interest in even being social about like your interest. So I do feel like you can only promote social cohesion if people actually want to know about each other.
I think those small effort by the community or the town council, it means a lot. If in a community they will like mix or interact with other communities, it will still keep the kampong spirit alive. Singapore might be a small country, so there's no excuse that people cannot go out and mingle with others and then, you know, discover new things about their neighbor or other community people. HDB is like this heart of Singapore living. It's a common space wherein all the people with different languages and religion mingle. You can see uncles and aunties playing chess or having chit-chat in the morning. And then it's respecting your space. For example, you like to do gardening and then this is your space, and then your neighbor might be allergic to plants, and then that's where the compromise comes in. There's an exchange of views, and then respect for privacy or personal space comes in, and then we always come to a solution. Well, anything can be solved as long as both parties are willing.
To actually inculcate the spirit of gotong royong, or we call it a mutual assistance. Gotong royong is actually like helping one another, coming forward voluntarily. It's not something that is being forced. Like when you see your neighbor moving house, for like new neighbor coming in. Yeah, one way you can do is to actually get to know the neighbor, like, hi, how, welcome, or do you need help?
The ethnic integration policy, it definitely helps, because by the government mandating that how many percentage of certain races should be at that particular place, it ensures that we still are living amongst other races, which will automatically help us bond and form relationship with other races. When I was at one of my previous places, I had a neighbor for that 10-15 years. Every time when our festival is there, like for Deepavali, we will be inviting them to our place for dinner, and we will be giving them all the Deepavali goodies and stuff like that. And for Chinese New Year, they will be doing the same thing. We formed a really close-knit relationship.
Nowadays, right, people who are very on, they will actually create group chats, like the project, and everyone will enter to the group, and you can see there for the different races. And from what I observe is that there is no stigma or double standards between the races. There's still this attitude of kampong spirit whereby we welcome everyone. Even before the BTO is being built out, like what I'm experiencing right now, they are actually sharing information about the progress of the HDB, or helping each other to take photos of the plot of land, even planning, maybe in future we could connect by having our own community, like they say, maybe I can do this business, home-based business, want to support or not? And then I just joke at them and say, okay, I can be a nanny, anybody need my help or not? Yeah, it's like, from there, even though the HDB is not ready yet, 5 years later down the road, but I could see that I'm glad I'm in this community whereby there's still this kampong spirit.
Compared to like kampong back in the olden days, I feel like if someone is missing or even like passed on, it will take like weeks or months to actually find out about the news. But recently, like in Singapore, we have this app called Live SG, where actually recently I actually got a notification about someone's missing, and they even give a descriptive of how the person looks like.
To me, kampong spirit means that you don't feel alone when you're around people. Like, you know that you always have a community you can count on. And whether it's like your family or your neighbors or your friends, like, I think kampong spirit is a huge part in what makes those connections strong, because you know that you always can rely on people. It was a lot more about neighborhood in a sense, like having neighbors around you, like the true meaning of neighbors as people who you can rely on in times of need because they live close to you. And I think now we don't really have that. We can't really say that we can rely on our neighbors. Because I think in Singapore especially, our homes are like such a private space that you wouldn't just necessarily invite your neighbor over unless you really trust and know the person. And I think now in our society, it's a bit harder to want to get to know the other person, the neighbor, because you don't know if it's going to be reciprocated. But I think that this can be like, challenged by festive season, just the food that you cook, just go to your neighbor and be like, this is what like my family made today. That can be a strong foundation, like a good foundation for opening that friendship.
Kampong spirit to me, I think, is about togetherness. Basically, it's just like hut-like houses around, and it's not really gated. Everybody is just around everywhere, which helps to form a family-like relationship.
Maybe I can compare it to the Filipino spirit. We call it bayanihan. It's a communal spirit of unity and cooperation, wherein in the province or rural areas, people are carrying houses manually to help their neighbors from one place to another. After that, they're still all smiles and bonding. You know the satisfaction that you feel whenever you see your house being carried. You cannot do it by yourself, and then all these people, some you don't even know, help you out, and then that's where the community spirit comes in. When it's their turn to have their house moved out to another place, then it's your turn to give them back their help.
Singapore is such a food-centric society. Like, food is such a huge part of who we are, and the food that we love comes from different cultures. So I think in a sense, food is a very strong thread running through the fabric of Singapore's multicultural society. But I do think that beyond appreciation for food, we need to have kind of appreciation for the culture itself. It's the same thing with racial harmony. You can wear someone else's costume, but if you don't understand the background of that costume, you don't try to understand the people of that culture, then what you're doing is hollow. And I think it's the same with food as well. But I do think that food can be a strong manifestation of identity in a sense. But I wouldn't say racial identity, but Singaporean identity. Because even the food we enjoy are mixed with elements of different cultures in Singapore. In that way, they're uniquely Singaporean.
Food culture definitely helped me understand the racial identity, because when I am actually eating a certain food, discovering a certain food of a different culture, I Google and see what is the ingredient, how do they do that, and even though there might be an even more easier way to do that, why did they choose to do it this way?
Whenever we see food, we're curious. So when the curiosity comes in, there's cultural exchange. The context of the food is very vital for me. It's like, how is it prepared? There might be some dishes that are the same name, but there are different ways to cook them, but the output is the same. So it's like, if you boil a potato and then cook it and fry it, it might be different for some race. Like, they only peel it and straight away fry it. That's how they cook it. This is how we cook it. But the most important thing is you try to understand why. That's the last one? Okay.